Number 1.
I feel a small pattern of water on my head. I look up at the small hole that projects only the light I can see. Water's coming though, raining on me. It feels wonderful. The water isn't clean though. It contains all the dirt and sweat from your busy day. I stick my tongue out, tasting you. Then comes out my favorite part. You clean your hair, and some pieces come out that travel through the holes, landing next to me. I scrap them up, moving to put them with the rest. I have a large collection of them. I've been collecting them since you were young. I have enough now to make a wig out of them. The water ceases, and you leave the viewing of my hole. I place your hair on my head, strainings fall from my face. I inhale deeply, smelling you. I can only wait until you shower again, so I can show you my new hair.
Number 2.
Dear Log, kids are so disrespectful. The phrase respect your elders obviously bears a much lighter weight than it did in my day. As a no-nonsense woman, it aggravates me to no end to see kids and teenagers with so little regard for what their parents tell them to do. I always get the same story from these parents when I inquire after a desire for a babysitter for children like that. She's just a little trouble, that's all. She's always had a difficulty adjusting, you know? She's got a good heart when you get to know her. Expressed desperately to me over the phone, his little hellion shrieks rise to a cacophonous level in the background. There, I always soothe. I can handle it. You must be in dire need of a break. The relief is always wordlessly palpable. Such helpless parents to fucking disrespectful children. Take little Janie Layton the other week, for example. I was given the rundown by her clearly stressed parents. For a 7-year-old, she's awfully manipulative and sneaky. Just make sure she's always in your sight when you're here. Mrs. Layton whispered, almost tearfully. She's very high energy, and isn't shy about letting you know what she wants. Just give in to her, whatever it is. Kids are always trouble, right? She'll grow out of it one day. For now, just appease her, as often as possible. Just, give us a call any time if you have any questions at all. Mr. Layton said in a low, serious voice. You know where we'll be, and you have all the numbers, so just good luck, ma'am. The two almost bolted out of the house once Janie began whining loudly. I noticed they didn't bother locking the door. It was either a very safe neighborhood, or they just neglected to do it. I shrugged and tutted myself while taking in the surroundings. They were obviously a family well above the line of middle class. Spacious and cheery, the home was ideal for raising a family. All except... Janie stalked over to me, a surprisingly hostile look in her large eyes, slightly chubby face scrunched up with purpose. She screamed, "Who are you? I don't know you!" Her strident voice going up an octave towards the end. My mouth pursed inadvertently at the sound. I made a quick call on my cheap phone as I ushered Janie in the living room and temporarily distracted her with her massive TV. Hello? Yeah? Yes, it's me. I'm at the Layton place, and... You have no idea. No, once she's asleep, I'll... Exactly. Of course. Yeah, of course. Goodbye. Janie was very high maintenance, obviously used to her parents falling over themselves, trying to make sure she was content. It was clear to me who ran this house. She tossed things with abandon, purposely tried to throw up on the couch, attempted to startle me by yelling at random intervals, punched the TV, and refused entirely to brush her teeth or bathe unless I did everything for her. But I made sure not to betray my impatience or annoyance, even indulged her a little by cooing at her sing-screeching, which seemed to mollify her a bit. After having safely put her to bed, I quickly sent a text and went downstairs to sleep, putting on my sound-silencing headphones as I always do. The next morning, I went upstairs and glanced coldly into little Janie's room, nodding in satisfaction. Creeping downstairs, I practiced my tearful voice and wretched expressions. I picked up on the phone and called the police. 10 minutes later, 2 grim uniforms appeared at the door. My distraught expression was set, my hands wringing helplessly as I babbled on in a choked voice. The younger officer patted my back awkwardly as the older one went upstairs to Janie's room. The younger officer's phone beeped, making us both jump. He checked it, his eyes widening and resting on me in pity. What is it?" I stuttered. Ma'am, it seems the couple you were working for were murdered last night, which is why they didn't arrive home when expected, he said gently. I exclaimed in horror, clutching my chest and shaking my head in disbelief. After that, well, it's all boring epilogue, isn't it? Janie has no other family, and apparently no one has stepped up for potential guardianship. It's no matter to me what happens to the little cretin anymore. As for her parents, only their heads and copious amounts of blood were ever found. They were nestled together in a ditch miles away from where they were having dinner, as has been the case in all 9 of my previous experiences with bad seeds. As I've said, it aggravates me to no end to see kids give their parents no respect, and as no-nonsense woman, it makes me even angrier when parents enable their children to grow up and become entitled menaces to society. Better just nip it in the bud altogether, don't you think? In more current news, there's a lovely couple a few towns over who requested a babysitter on Craigslist. I'll need to give them a call later, hoping for the best.
Number 3.
Okay, I just want to start by describing where this took place. It's an old mine, deep in the heart of the isolated desert, and I go there as I have an interest in old mines and it's local. This was my 4th visit to this particular mine, and it didn't actually occur in the shaft. Actually, the lodge. I was walking up the old tracks towards the lodge, just looking at the bottles, chairs and other paraphernalia that was just frozen in time. It was like a time slip into another era, with the exception of rust. Everything had remained unchanged since the 1960s when the mine had closed, and this was like the last frontier of that bygone age. The place was abandoned and there was not another soul for a million miles either way, or so it felt. I reached the end of the track and was on the deck of the lodge. I went towards the door that was unlocked and peeked in. There were 3 chairs in the middle of the room and an old vintage oven. I closed the door and turned away. I began walking down the thin wooden steps when I heard furniture being dragged across the floor. Yeah, you see where this is going. I turned around and opened the door in case there was someone there. As I did, I saw one of the chairs being moved on its own across the room. It must have moved 2 feet before stopping. I stood stunned at what I had seen. And after the realization hit me, I turned and hurriedly returned to my vehicle. I haven't been back since as I'm too scared. Probably not the scariest story you guys have ever heard, but it sure creaked the skeleton in my body. And it's still jangling.
Number 4.
My friend Vanessa recently moved into a new apartment, and right away the paranormal events started happening. For example, every night before she goes to sleep, Vanessa puts the hall light on. But one night when she woke up, the hall light was off and the bathroom door was shut. She listened outside the door and heard the water running. Vanessa panicked, thinking that someone was in her apartment, so she went into the kitchen and got a knife. She turned on the hall light and flung open the bathroom door. But the water had stopped running, and no one was there. Similar events occurred for the next few weeks. For example, she heard someone moving things around in the kitchen, as well as hearing murmured voices in her room in the middle of the night, to the point where it would wake her up. And it scared her so badly, she contemplated moving out. One night she asked her deceased grandmother to help protect her. That night she had a dream that her grandmother appeared to her and was telling her that she needed to establish authority over her home and demand that the spirits leave. She also told her that her living grandmother didn't have much time left, so she should visit her as often as possible. When she woke up, Vanessa realized that her closet door was open and one of her favorite dresses appeared to be glowing for at least 10 to 15 seconds. The dress that was glowing was one that Vanessa's grandmother had given her years before she passed. The next morning, Vanessa did as her grandmother had instructed. She demanded that the ghosts leave her apartment. She said that they had no power over her or her residence. She told them that they didn't belong there, and that they needed to leave permanently. She hasn't experienced any paranormal events since.
Number 5.
Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away, Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, meek and the bold.
The thing about nightmares is that when you wake up, it's supposed to be over. You're supposed to wake up screaming for mommy, turn the lights on, and see your familiar Pooh Bear in the corner next to the toppled over Thomas the Tank Engine and Barbie's dream house. The thing about dreaming you're abandoned, cold, tired, and hungry is that when you wake up, you're supposed to wrap your blankets around you tighter as you sneak downstairs for a glass of milk. And when your nightmare is reality, your dreams are supposed to be an escape. There was no escape for Annie. Bad dreams were a sign of an evil mind. Evil minds must be starved. Go to the priest. Ask forgiveness. Father, please forgive me. I'm so cold. I'm so hungry. But the father sits and grins drunkenly, holding up a fork full of steak. You want to eat? How badly? What will you do to eat? Tears stream down her face as she trudges back home, trying to stop the bleeding, terrified of what mommy will say, terrified of what mommy will do. She stares at her fingers in fear. Must hide the blood. Must hide. Mommy cannot see. Mommy will know. It's crusted over and won't rub off of her tattered dress. She pops her fingers in her mouth to wash away the shame. She creeps into bed and closes her eyes, praying for just one night of release. But the shadows grow larger and ever more fearsome. She whimpers and pulls the ragged covers over her head, but the evil shadows crawl through. She can no longer suffocate the scream. Wicked child, evil child, have you learned nothing? Go see the Father. Beg forgiveness. Maybe there is hope for you yet, but all it brings her is the taste of her own blood and never-ending nightmares. She is ravenous with hunger when she sees a crippled bird struggling in the bushes. She hesitates only a moment before she tears its wretched head off and pops it in her mouth. And at night the father appears before her, his feathered hands holding up meat, the blood pooling around his mouth and down his greasy arm, asking her what she will do for food. She's finally had enough. She's terrified out of her mind. She grabs the fork and stabs it in his eye. The blood sprays into her face, into her mouth. Madness takes over as her shrieks mix with his, and she stabs wildly with the steak knife, slicing his throat like a carved turkey. The moon finally breaks through the shadows, illuminating what's left of a young girl, chewing softly on finger stubs, a broken cross clenched in her hands.